And hey guys, we are live on the my Facebook page, the Just for Flips YouTube channel, the Phoenix Ria Facebook page, and then the Viking YouTube channel as well. If you're watching, give us a thumbs up. Feel free to comment. And Hopefully, I'm in my office in Phoenix today. Hopefully, my audio is better. And we have Jamil coming on today. He is running a little bit late. He's in Canada and he got switched up with the daylight saving time that hit last weekend. So us Arizonans don't have to flip back our clock, but everybody else does. Um, Anyways, we have some fun going on in the market, right? We got Bitcoin is off like 30% from its all-time high. The S&P 500 went through its 200-day average. Had a big falling yesterday. Last night, bond yields were off to 4.1. Now they've rebounded today a little bit. So unfortunately, we didn't get to take advantage of that. The interest rates coming down. I still think we're definitely pointing towards a recession. So that will create pressure on the bonds to come down, which will lower the interest rates. And maybe the rest of the world will be in a recession, but the real estate people will get lower interest rates, which is always good for us. So you're watching our podcast, you're not going to you're not going to hate us for that. So I was sharing with Tracy. If you go to actives and coming soons, we are just over 25,000 in the Phoenix market. So that is just creeping up. Now, that is not terrible because remember we added the Northern Arizona MLS a couple weeks ago, and that was about 1,500 to 1,600 units. So we're still just clipping along at like 22,000, 23,000 actives, but typically for March, we see the actives usually start trending downward this time of year because people are buying up, getting ready for the summer moving season, and it's not been as active as we normally have seen. So definitely some slower there. And if you're a listing agent and if you have any comments on that, we'd love to hear you put them in the comment section because we always like to get other people's feedback. But today we're going to talk about co-living when Jamil jumps on. Hopefully he's jumping on any minute. Have you done any co-living stuff, Tracy?
So I've gotten proposed to do some rehabs or underwrite them. And, I stay in my lane. If I don't know how to underwrite something, I'm not the person for it. So in that capacity, no, I'm not, listen, I'm going to go with the unpopular opinion here. It's not for me. Everyone has their own investment strategy, but as a long time property manager, like I landlord my own properties. And when I got started in this business, I worked behind the scenes for other investors that had pretty sizable portfolios. And it's hard enough dealing with a really good tenant and a great property, like they're pretty hands off if you get things flowing. But I personally just don't see it as a strategy for me that wouldn't be without a lot of headaches and a lot of risk. So however, that said, I will follow up with that to say, I think it's really timely for how things are going and affordability for investors to maximize literally every square foot of a property for cash flow. And then also for people for affordability, for people that are looking for the ability just to be able to pay their rent and hopefully get ahead a little bit and maybe not have a situation like that forever. But what about you? Is it something that you do or consider?
Yeah, I got into obviously the Airbnb space, and I got in early. I was in the Airbnb space in like 2015 before all the regulations and everything. And obviously, with pricing back in 2015 and mortgage rates were still, fours and fives, you could do long-term rentals still and short-term rentals, but short-term rentals obviously got you the best return on investment. So I went that path, and but obviously when regulations came in and then the Scottsdale pricing spiked, I was like, man, there's a lot of cash in these Airbnbs that I could go and do something else with. Because even like the Airbnb tenant that's like, oh, the AC went out, or something, you get that call at Friday night at 11 o'clock at night, and you have to deal with it, right? So
Well,
it's
I'm kind of understanding the co-living. So I'm all for Airbnb when the numbers work, right?
yeah,
But I'm understanding co-living to be you take a 3-bedroom house, turn it into a 6 or 7-bedroom house, and then rent by room. Am
yeah,
I
no, yeah, no,
okay?
that's what it is. But I'm like, so just having the tenant that changed weekly was like a
Oh, I
lot for
gotcha.
me. But
Yes.
to go and expand into 6 potential people that could call
Yeah.
you and just say, hey, the person down the room is playing their music too loud or something like that, that would just be like,
Yeah.
no thanks. I
Just
would
different
definitely have,
personalities and coming
yeah.
and going and the liability. Yeah. Well, and if you don't mind, can we revisit what you were talking about before, Chris, with the stock market? Because, it's like you open your phone and it's just doom and gloom and the market tanking, and we've lost all the gains that we've had, from 2024. And so, as a real estate investor, it's kind of like, man, we're a little bit more insulated. And in fact, it could be to our advantage that some of this is happening. So what are your thoughts on if this does continue, maybe hopefully not the trajectory that it's on, but if it ends up being that we do go into something of a recession? Tina Tambora, the local data analyst with Cromford Report, has always been really forthright about saying recessions don't last that long. We often are in them before we know that they're in them. And these buyers markets, you're like, man, we really only get a small snapshot of time to take advantage of it as an investor, because then it tends to rebound pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Like I said, obviously I don't wish bad for the rest of the country, but
Yep.
as stocks go down and people move away from aggressive stuff when they hear words like recession, they generally put them into bonds, which, like I said, lowers the supply and demand. More people buying bonds, it's gonna lower the price, so that will lower interest rates, which gives us an opportunity to clear some of this inventory that's kind of ticking
Yeah.
up, and get rid of some of those older listings that we have, recycle our cash, because
Hmm.
with the real estate market, just think about how many people get paid on a transaction, right?
Yeah.
It's the loan officer, the title
The
company,
agent. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
the agent, Home Depot, Floor and Decor, like all the
Yeah.
guys that do all the labor, like the house flipping business does a lot for this economy. So with rates going down, hopefully, because we're not seeing a whole lot of action, and we haven't seen a whole lot of action in the last couple years.
Yeah.
It's just been slower. So it wouldn't hurt. And then obviously, if lower rates, affordability, it brings how many more buyers into the market based on rates even going down like a half a point. So definitely will help our industry, which like I said, I'm heavily invested into real estate. I have some other small items, but I've always just
Yeah.
been like, if I can get a 12% return or 13% return on a hard money loan, why am I going to go over here into stocks? Oh, we got Jamil calling.
Cool. Hmm.
What's up, Jamil? Okay, sounds good. Bye bye. All right, so got a few more minutes to wait for Jamil, and then we will jump into the co-living. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, the real estate market itself drives so many
Yeah.
economic things, and obviously it helps our industry. And yeah, I just don't invest in other stuff because, like, if I
Yeah.
can get a steady 12% return, and then if someone doesn't pay me, I just get the house back at
Right.
a way better price. So.
Yeah, and it's always been the volatility of the stock market. It's similar to you. I mean, I have a tiny bit, but it's in stuff that's a little bit more steady, and I'm a long-term investor. I don't
Yeah.
trade. I am not smart enough to to beat expectations. I index funds, I bonds, a few handpicked stocks that are related to the housing industry, to be honest. But other than that, it's not like I'm in there checking it every day. And if things go up or down, it's one thing. But just the volatility, the illiquidity, um, there's an argument for it, I think, to have a diversified portfolio based on your age and what you're looking to do. But I'm a real estate gal. Like, I just don't really, see the compelling reason to be so heavily invested in anything else. I think you can diversify within the type of real estate that you do. Like you have long-term holds, you do, if you were doing Airbnb, if when you have the lending business, the education business. So that to me is diversifying. I don't know how you feel about that, but I've always just felt like, man, there's 13 ways that you can make money doing one thing in real estate essentially, and just adding some verticals to it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I just got back from Mastermind, and I'd say it's called Collective Genius. There's 200 people in the room, and they asked like how many wholesalers in the room. I'd say 60% of the room raised their hand, and I know for a fact out of those guys that raise their hand, so that's probably, let's call it 100 people. The number of people that actually have the lending arm is like 2% of those or 3% of those, which I've always found fascinating. It's like you have the customer right there.
Right.
And obviously if you're raising capital, like I'm sure you probably raise some capital to do some of your flips. I'm sure it's not all just your cash. So,
right.
But I mean, I have just raised capital. I don't even have like a hook to raise capital really. I just it's just referral based. And I've got $60 million out right now just on referrals, people sending me money. So now clearly I've done it for 20 years, but you should, and then if you want to leverage and even expand faster, there's all these companies that will buy your notes, like a Turac or a One Shot, something like that. You can sell these notes to. So I've never understood why all these wholesalers don't have that, because you have the customer right there. He's buying your house. Why not get the lending piece?
I think it's similar to agents. If you were to pull same room of agents, 200 people, and ask how many of you own one rental property or how many of you have done one flip, I think that the answer had always surprised me, because I was like raised in this industry by investors. And so I really can't latch on to how agents think, which is, I want to help you sell your house or find your next dream home, where it's like, it's right there. Why haven't you done this for yourself when you can make the same on one that you could on, depending on your price point, 3 to 4 sides. So I think it's just a one set mind. And once you get good at something, you have a hard time expanding. But
I even got to the point where I have all my 401k money it buys fix and flips. Because if you look at the return on investment on a fix and flip, it's like, you can put out, call it 50 grand, leverage it with hard money, you flip it. And then let's just say you only make $15,000 on that fix and flip, and it takes 6 months. So you do it twice in a year, and that's 30 grand on your 50. Like that's a 60% return. Show me anything that performs at 60%. Now it's a little bit more active than, just sitting and watching, oh, what's my 401k doing today? But it's when it's part of your business, like why not?
Yeah. And I think for people not typically being taught how to invest in the first place, it might feel intimidating or too complex. But once you've been in this industry for a while, and if you have a pretty steady, pipeline of business and you continue to perform well, it makes more sense just to subscribe to your own business, essentially, or let others, like you say, like you're naturally just lending money and accelerating what your returns are because your product. Why put yourself in 9 different directions when you can do something, a few things really, really well?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, it'll be.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's just going to be really interesting in the coming months with all these factors changing. And I think more people will then will come back into real estate as an investment just for the opposite reasons: less volatility, more stability, interest rates coming down. It's an asset that you can live in. And even as things go up and down, it's something that you can live in and shelter in and, not worry if it's going to go crazy.
Well, the good thing about, once again, when economic stuff is going crazy, a lot of people do move their money into real estate because it doesn't fluctuate as much. Right. So so there could be some more investors coming into the market to buy rentals and to buy maybe co-living stuff. Like I said, it's not necessarily for me. I don't want 6 people to have an option of of dialing my phone number. But,
Yeah. I mean, even if you have a property management company in place, it's still the idea of that amount of people living in one space and, however they divide up the bathrooms and kitchen area and, what space belongs to you outside of your room.
yeah,
There's just a lot of landmines. For me, it's just not something that I don't think would be, even as a inactive operator. I just don't think I'd sleep as well as night knowing that there's 7 people or 10 people or whatever in one of my rentals. It seems like but I'm interested to hear more about it because it has been really popular the last few years. It seems like it's growing in trend, so there must be a compelling reason why people keep signing up for it.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm excited for Jamil to jump on when he gets on here. So what's great about these podcasts, I don't know how much other podcasting you do, but when you get guests on the podcast, it's like a free education. Like you get people that specialize, like when we get the insurance people and we get the DSCR people, and you get a free education on like really how to use that product.
Yeah, especially in construction, the roofer that we had on, I was thinking about that conversation for a couple days afterwards. So, I mean, it's always beneficial. And as a podcast host too, you get to make new friends and make new connections and hopefully some new business too. And once Jamil gets on here, he's going to have to defend himself because we've been both saying that what's the deal with co-living? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see. Someone just commented and they said, "Oh, has my virtual assistant not shared it into the Facebook group? Hold on." No, she shared it in the Facebook group. So,
yeah, I've been to a couple classes with the notes about notes. Man, that is fascinating. That just gets so creative. I mean, I think eventually that would be something I'd be really interested in doing. Looks like Jamil is joining us. There he is. Hi. Welcome on. Hey.
I'm so sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. Good to see you, Tracy.
Yeah, you too, man. Time. Did you just like jump out of the plane and land on the podcast? Sounds like your world.
No, I'm out of breath because I'm in a new house here, and I'm on the 3rd story where I do this, and I don't have an elevator, so I was running. Usually,
well, you're glowing.
Thank you. Usually, my daughter gets out early from class, and so I got there early to pick her up, and I told Chris, "Yeah, I'll be there at 15 after," and she was like moseying along. I'm like, "Come on!" Today, she decided she was gonna talk to all her friends. Anyways,
yes.
Great to see you. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. Thanks for jumping on with us. Obviously, Jamil is a guest on our podcast that needs no introduction. He is all over the real estate space, whether it's on YouTube or I forget I just went brain dead on your. Oh, yeah. And
that's what I've been doing.
I mean, if this whole real estate thing doesn't work out for you, I mean, that we have been saying, I don't know about the co-living thing. So, OF is next.
No, you'd be surprised. You can make a lot of money posting pictures of drains. Sorry.
I don't know if that's a euphemism.
No. It's just, whatever. I didn't make it as a comedian, so I had to pick real estate instead. It's just one of those things.
You still get your platform, yeah. Probably make a little bit more money too.
Oh, you've definitely been doing like the genie. You definitely got your comedian stuff out there with the with the genie and some of the other stuff you've done on social media. So,
right. But honored to be here. I'm a huge fan of Tracy. Your fix and flips. You're phenomenal. You always have been. I've had the pleasure of walking through one of your projects and seeing how you work. I don't know if you remember that when I actually physically came to see one, and then I've seen your stuff on social media. You're one of those very few flippers who do it right, and that's like. It's rare, and it's one of I think the reason why you've been successful at fixing and flipping, even in downturns, and and especially when the rates did what they do, and but you continue to thrive and have it going, and that's just a testament to the quality of the craftsmanship. And I always say that yeah, the market can tank you if you're a flipper for sure, because you're actually a fireman. But if you're a real fix and flipper and you understand how things are supposed to line up and where what the trades are supposed to be doing, you actually can't fail at this, because at the end of the day, quality will always rise. And so I've, a fan of your work, and Chris, of course, you've been, you're the reason I'm here. If I'm being honest, I got my start from doing deals with you. You gave me a chance when no one did. So I'm honored to be on this show with you guys. I'm excited that you guys invited me, and happy to talk about co-living.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Now, co-living is obviously, the subject matter, but so is Pad Split is like the Coca-Cola of co-living? Is that kind of what it is, or?
Yeah, they kind of got lucky because they got, because they're the first platform to come out and offer the service of lease up, right?
Okay.
And so they like Kleenex. Kleenex is facial tissue, but now we call all facial tissue Kleenex, even if it's another brand, right? And so Pad Split was really lucky that they kind of became synonymous with co-living, and I think it's a neat name. What I really love about the Pad Split company, because I have an opportunity to work with the top brass there in a close way, and they really are in it for the right reason. They weren't one of these companies that came in once they saw an opportunity for a new rental strategy because of interest rates and yada yada, and the downfall of short-term rentals. Which, if I'm going to be honest, that's what got me in it. Okay, I'm just going to be straight. I got in because the cash-on-cash return was like, whoa. They got in it because they saw the need. I'm a believer in it, and I did more and more and more because I'm now in line and in alignment with their heart and why they're doing it. And so I got there the other way, but I came through the door because of the returns. So, Pad Split have done a really good job in professionalizing and raising the bar of the standard of what the tenant looks like, because, Section 8, for instance, has had a bad rap for having, either slumlords or like, oh, you are a Section 8 landlord. Then you get this idea in your head that, oh, that's a slumlord. And then it's like, oh, you have a Section 8 tenant. Oh, they're going to be a problem, and they're never going to pay you, and they're going to put cement down your toilets, right? Well, that can be farther from the truth. The reality is when you have a Section 8 rental, they inspect your property every year. They make sure that the house is in top-notch shape. I mean, they're not requiring granite countertops, but you can't have, missing tiles. You can't have a broken AC. You can't have a toilet that doesn't work. Like, these things aren't going to fly. You got to have a working home that has some dignity in it. So Section 8 has that. On the other side, with the occupants, they work so hard. They take years sometimes to get approved for their Section 8 voucher. They are not going to risk that doing dumb stuff. They're like grateful that they have this assistance and subsidy in their life so that they can move ahead. So because the stigma doesn't match the reality, I love the fact that Pad Split has done a really nice job in elevating the brand and elevating the model, because it's really the working professional that we cater to, right? And yes, there's going to be some people who are on hard times, facing difficulties, that are in a co-living home, 100%, right? You're going to get a guy who's going through a divorce, and we have one right now. It's a dad and a daughter, and they're in that situation, and they felt humiliated to be in that spot. And, he pulled up in a Porsche, right? So this guy, when he signed his lease on that Porsche, was in a situation where he got approved for the lease on the Porsche, right? He's not a deadbeat, and he's got his kid with him, right? He's just in a situation right now, and he needs some months, he needs some time to get his world back in order. And so you got those. Then you have people like who, quite frankly, Chris, you and I have created, right? And I'll give you an example. So I was walking my dog in Arcadia. Well, I use Arcadia Light, right? So I'm walking my dog in Arcadia Light.
Have to be specific.
And I'm like, I passed this Ford Astro van, and I had noticed the van before because it's an Astro van, and Astro flipping. I'm just like, have fun. I hadn't seen an Astro van in a long time. So I'd seen the van before, and the van had been parked there all the time. It'd been there for a couple of weeks, and it was, beat up, right? And so I like seen the van, and kind of out of place, but whatever, it's here. And then I'm walking my dog a little early one morning, and I see that the van is like active. All the doors are open, the trunk is open, and I see a man standing outside, and he's straightening up a suit. He's putting a suit on, And I look a little closer, and I see a woman in the trunk, like kind of fussing around in the trunk, and there's a couple of kids in there. And it dawned on me, these guys are living in the van, right? And so I walk over. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that I'm glad you ended that by saying she was fussing around in the trunk, because all I heard was there's a man finishing his suit and then a woman in the trunk.
Yeah.
And then, okay. I just want to make sure that the story has a good end.
No, it wasn't an Eminem situation. It was, it was a little different. So she's playing with these kids. Kids are adorable, right? They're this whole thing. I walk over to them, and immediately they're just like, leave us alone, right? Like, we don't want to talk to you. But they could quickly see I wasn't there to cause them trouble. I was curious. And so, and I also offered help. I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I'm a nice person. I could be helpful for you. If I know what's happening, I might be able to do something that could be beneficial.
Yeah.
And so they lay it out. We lived in a house in Maryville, and we got notice that the owner of the home we were living in for like 15 years sold the house and didn't tell us, right? How many times have you and I been in a deal like that? We do a deal like that 3, 4, 5, 10 times a month. I mean, it's not uncommon that sellers choose to sell to a wholesaler because they don't want to deal with the eviction. They don't want to deal with the situation and the fallout of the occupant. They just don't want to do it, right? And so they come to you or they come to me, and we buy it. And then our job is to then, clear the home, right?
Yeah, and they even tell it to the acquisition manager, don't go buy the house. Don't tell them. They're on the table about it. They're like, don't go. You can buy it sight unseen, but don't disturb the occupant.
Don't disturb the occupant until they get that notice on the door, right? And it was like they got the notice on the door, and they were like, oh my God. So they were devastated, but they're like, okay, we'll be okay. They go online. They hadn't gone apartment shopping or house shopping in 15 years. And so they were shocked to see that the place that they were paying $1,300 a month in rent was now $3,000 a month in rent.
Yeah.
And they just can't afford it. There's nothing that they could do. And so they were trying. And then they were trying to go to more inexpensive places, but no one would take the family. Then they had the 2 kids. They were just out of luck. Right. And so I'm like, I know what's going on with these guys because I'm in that space. Anyhow, I ask, listen, would you mind sharing the address with me? I'm curious, and there's something I need to see because I'm in the investor space and I just want to know, like, if I had seen the property, bro, I wholesaled it.
Oh man.
So
that's a full circle moment.
That's a full circle moment, right? Right there. And I'm like, at that time, I'm just like, whoa. Like, if God didn't smack me on the face, that was it, right? Like, that was like, hey, dude, look, you got to see this from all the angles. You've done well, okay? And this is amazing, and that's great. But there's the other side of it. And now, how do you reconcile, right? And so, for me, now with co-living, because I've had the opportunity to see the full circle moment, I've done over 7,000 wholesale deals, guys. Like, that's potentially 7,000 homes I've made more expensive. right? Forget the fallout of people. 7,000 homes are more expensive because I touched them. And for me, I don't find that a problem, but I also have a responsibility to be involved in the solution. And I see co-living as my chance to be involved in the solution, and I'm enjoying the opportunity to be involved in it. And and on top of that, to have the kinds of returns that we're seeing is fiscally responsible, in addition to being socially responsible as well. So it's like one of those feel good moments, but like it's also helping me make more money. So how do you feel? How does that fits? It fits.
Well, it also, like, what's the reality of actually buying? Like, we as investors, you have your active income, you're a wholesaler, you got your Keegley, but you also have to like buy assets to do some depreciation, so you're not just writing all the all the money of the government, right? So
absolutely.
And you probably couldn't. Very few places in the country could you probably buy with a 7% mortgage and truly cash flow. And you might be able to cash flow $100, but if one AC goes down, there is no cash flow.
Yeah,
100%, right? And that's that's the reality, and I know that's the reality. At 7% rates, long-term holds, they don't pencil. Midterm rentals, sure, but there's also vacancy risk there. And so that's a problem. Short-term rentals, listen, I'm not a short-term rental wizard. I had some, and they all failed. Like I'm very open, and it's not fun to share with people that you fail at something, but it's the truth. My short-term rentals just failed. And even when I went to go then turn them into long-term rentals, I'm looking at the cash on cash, and I'm like, this is pointless for me, right? I was doing better buying cars that are over 6,000 pounds and renting them on Turo than I was on my real estate, right? Yeah. So it's like, who am I? Now if you go, my neighbors think I'm a really rich drug dealer. Because I got like 10 cars outside of my house for the purpose of depreciation. I don't drive any of these things. I'm like, I don't give a darn about a single one of those cars. Every one of them was a tax write-off and is a cash flow play for me. And they're all cash flowing. Yeah. But the reality is it's a pain in the butt, and Turo's a pain in the butt, and the whole management of it is a pain in the butt. And so that wasn't going to work. Now on the co-living side, it's pretty dang good, because it's just like a wholesale deal, right? If we're looking at a Maryville property, let's take the math on that. If you've got a Maryville house, what's up, Jay? You got a Maryville house and it's got an ARV of like 430. Okay, that's pretty standard in Maryville, 400 to 430, somewhere in there. So if for it to be a good co-living property, you got to pick it up between 250, 270. Okay. Mm-hmm. What you're going to do is you're probably going to have $100,000 in renovations. Okay. That's going to get you to, let's call it 370. Okay. Now what the lender will do is they're going to typically give you 70% of LTV, right? So if ARV is 430, you're going to get 70%. Let me just do some, quick. Yeah. I'm an Indian, but I'm not good at math.
It should be $300,000, right?
You're of course, so 300, right? So 300. So now you're 300 is what the lender will give you. You're into it for 330, right? So you've got $30,000 in this house stuck in equity. You've got more equity. You've actually got 70,000 in equity, but you've got your cash, 30 grand in actual hard cash in the house, right? The beauty of that is on your $300,000 loan, what's the mortgage payment on that thing? Would you say about $2,500, $2,600, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so that house will likely get you roughly $5,000 to $6,000 gross on a co-living deal, then you're going to take off your vacancy, you're going to take off your utilities and all that. You're probably looking at $2,000 a month net cash flow. Okay, so you got 30 grand in the house. You're getting $2 grand a month in cash flow. You tell me what Ponzi scheme gives you that money. Because I don't know an investment out there that gives you $2 grand on 30K a month.
But you get all your cash back in about 15 months, 16 months.
Yeah. A little over a year.
And you go again, right? And so for the average American, if you really talk to them and say, what does it take for you to have financial freedom in your life? I mean, 10 grand a month will typically do it, right? Yeah. For an average guy. I mean, you know, like for me, I'm single now. And so I know I'm not a big spender. And so if I like calculate, I got factor meals for food, you know, I got my dogs. I wear the same clothes almost every day. So I'm not like this, like, you know, flashy dude or whatever. 10 grand a month, I'm good, right? That means I got 5 houses, bro. I got to do 5 deals to get to financial freedom. That means I don't got to quit my W-2 if I'm a W-2 employee. I don't got to quit my W-2. I just sit. I can chill in my W-2 for 5 years, collect my 5 houses, and one day I get to walk in and say, I'm done. Thank you for the time, or thank you for the opportunity for me to be able to get here. Have a good day, guys. And I get to skate off into my freedom. And I think for the reality of how many people I've helped get to freedom, how many have fallen off because they couldn't do all the work it takes to do what you and I do. Straight up. It's not easy to be a wholesaler, a successful one. Right. It's not, right?
Yeah, no, it's actually one of the kind of, in my coaching business, it's kind of one of the things that I have the biggest struggle with is like, you know, when people pay you for coaching and you see them trying, and it's just competitive, and it's like, you know, the people that go get the gym membership on January 1, like, just because you got the membership doesn't mean you're going to get the six pack.
And they see the people walking out of the gym with big muscles and looking tan and fit, and they're like, well, how come I can't look like her tomorrow or him tomorrow? And it's like, they took 5 years to get to that shape, and then they've been working out since they were in high school, you know. And it's the same thing on flips. Like, it's not easy. It's still quite competitive, but I'm a glutton for punishment, and I rather do one of my flips than 3 wholesales, or, you know, however many it equates out to. But yeah, it's still a hustle. It's all a hustle. You just have to pick your poison a little bit. Jamil, what sort of turnover do you see with the tenants? So you had this really beautiful story about the family, with that full circle moment. Like, what sort of timeline do you see a normal tenant that they come in and then they leave? Do you make them sign a year lease, or like, what does that look like?
Great questions. So there's a difference in how you construct your co-living that will increase the longevity of your occupant. And so right now, my sister and I are seeing average 11 months.
Okay.
And that's high. That's on the high side. And why we're on the high side is because we over improve. And I'll give you an example of what we do in our over improvements. First, we renovate them the way we would a flip. So quartz countertops, you know, nice shaker cabinets, really luxury vinyl on the floor. But we think about the living situation and how they're going to be in their space, right? And so for us, we do a 1-to-1 bed bath ratio, because we really understand the bathroom is a big deal for people, right? And so it costs about 10 grand to add a bath roughly in a home, right? And so if we got 4 beds, I'm going to add 2 bathrooms into that. And we figure out how to do that, and to do it quickly so we can do over-the-counter permits and not have to go through the extensive permitting process that could take forever. And so we've kind of shaved and figured out how to do that well. But with regards to that aspect, we do 1-to-1 bed bath, so nobody's sharing butt seats, right? Like that's one thing. The second is climate control. One of the main reasons why people get into arguments is like, Chris, what's your house set at?
Well, I don't actually turn on the heat in the, like, it's whatever the temperature is. Like, if it goes to 60,
summertime.
Chris is a grizzly bear.
Me too.
I probably keep it at 72 during the summer. Like, I'm not.
You're a savage, because I'm a 69. What about you, Tracy? Where do you hang?
Summertime under 70 during like right about now I'm probably like 70, 72. I run cold though, I don't have a ton of meat on my bones. So
okay, so you're 72, 70, 72, 69 over here. So we'd be okay in a house together. There'd be times I was a little uncomfortable and times you might be a little cold, but we'd be fine. There's some people who love like 80 and there's others who are like, it's got to be 65. Okay, cool. So that can't be an issue. So instead of doing a main AC, we do mini splits
just
in
mini
each of
splits,
the rooms, right? And so now they got individualized climate control. We also do these little workstations in every room so that they can actually sit in there and there's like a little desk and they can do their work, they can do their emails, they can do their things. And so that's there. We provide every room with a TV and we have business internet in there. So we never have a problem with Netflix not working. And so we make the home super comfortable. But then in addition to that, every month we do some kind of community building in the house. And so we'll send over a yoga teacher to go in and do like group yoga with them. We'll send over a meditation instructor to come do meditation with them because these are the things I love and believe in, right? Breath work, like come learn about breath work and how it changed my life. Or if you want to understand credit repair and how to do that, we'll bring somebody in to help them with these things. And so every month there's something that they learn from and something that they can say, okay, I just got the skill. I can go put it into use. And so we give them these things where they're like, man, I can't really get this in an apartment. Plus I'm now friends with these guys I just did yoga with. Like, this is actually a nice place for me to be at. Maybe I'll stay a little bit longer and I'll save up more money and I'll really get myself in, on my feet before I leave. And so when you do it right and you provide the living condition that makes somebody want to stay, the turnover is low. And you asked about lease terms, and I'm actually not signing leases. I do a membership agreement. So much like a hotel rents out nightly, if you don't pay your hotel bill, you get kicked out, right? And they don't got to evict you to do that. Why is that? Well, because it's a different type of business relationship. And it's the same way in our co-living homes. It's a different type of business relationship. We don't have tenants. We have members. And if you don't pay your membership dues, which equates to what it costs to live in the spot, then unfortunately you got to go. And so we don't have evictions. We have people leave. Now, it hasn't challenged in court. I haven't been challenged in court with it. I imagine that in landlord or business-friendly states we'll be fine. But our argument is sound. And we've had multiple opinion letters from our attorneys that also share with us that the argument is sound. And PadSplit just won an incredible victory in Atlanta, arguing the matter against what was called an illegal eviction, but then turned out that they were in the right because of the membership agreement. So we believe we're in the right spot. Atlanta is a pretty democratic state, Georgia's a democratic state now-ish. And so the fact that it passed in Atlanta and that we were favorable in terms of how it went was good, because that's where you're going to have the most problem is in democratic states, not Republican states, right? And so if we skated in Atlanta, who kicked out Airbnb, I think we're gonna be fine on the membership agreements across the red states at least. And so I've got high hopes for the whole the membership and the tenancy relationship. But again, when you use the argument of a hotel and how hotel security will just remove you if you don't pay your bill, it's the same thing, right?
It's really creative.
And because we're offering the additional support, like the yoga, like the meditation and the credit repair and these little different things that make this much more than just a house and a place to live, it adds to the argument that this is a membership versus a tenancy.
Are you picking certain states because of the different laws? Like obviously the Northeast is got way different, and even California has way different tenancy laws, right? So are you
absolutely? Yeah,
this would be a nightmare in California. I bet
it would absolutely.
Like just thinking about it, though.
Yeah. In fact, recently in Southern California, I was actually in LA when this happened. but a co-living home was raided by the sheriff's office and they called it an illegal hostel. Now, what's interesting is the news was there interviewing the people who were being removed. And the people who were being removed were saying, I was on the street last week. And now I'm in a place and I have a spot to shower before I go to work. What the F are you guys doing?
Yeah.
You just shut this place down and now I got to go sleep outside again. And so I think the pendulum is definitely swinging. We've seen it, in our last election. We're seeing how Americans are definitely evolving in what they're putting up with versus what they're not putting up with any longer. And I truly believe that the reality is common sense is starting to take root in legislation and in different areas. I'm not in agreement with all the things happening in our world and in our political situation, but there's aspects of it that I think are extremely valid. And I think that the reality is that we got to just look at the situation. And if you ask the people who were on the street last week whether or not they think that's an illegal hostel, they'll tell you, no, that was my lifeline. And you guys just took it away from me.
Speaking of legislation, isn't your sister, like I kind of heard rumor on the street that your sister is really digging into the legislation on a lot of this stuff, right?
She is, yeah. And she's making a lot of headway with the politicians and the different powers that be in Arizona, at least. And so, I know that we're good in our state, and we've got the mayor on our side. We've got a lot of people that even zoning, right? Even the city and at the planning department, they know what we're doing. They understand the concept. And sure, there could be a question on zoning, like what is this? Is this commercial property? Is this single family residential? But the reality is in Phoenix, not Mesa, but Phoenix, you can have 6 unrelated people living in a home together.
Okay. And
so that's our mark. And that's how we fall in line with the zoning bylaw, the zoning laws. And so we're really doing our best, because our goal is, look, we're short homes.
Right.
We know that we're in the middle of a trade war that is going to, I think, affect it more, because a lot of lumber and energy is coming from our opponents in the trade war. And so there's going to be even greater difficulties, greater shortages. In addition to that, we've still got a high interest rate environment out there, and there's a lot of people locked into their mortgages that aren't going anywhere. And so inventory has yet to change. It's not really doing much. We see the days on market climbing, but we're not seeing a ton of decreases, maybe a little bit, but we're not seeing 2006, 2007, 8 decreases. You're seeing slight decreases. You're seeing, 3, 4, 5% corrections, which is fine. But that's it. That's about as much as the market's going to bear before the house goes under contract and sells. And so the reality is that the inventory situation is not going to change. And we've seen this happen in other markets in the world. Look at Europe, right? Europe has been doing the co-living model for decades. Why? Because they don't have the inventory.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from a macro view too, builders have caught on to the trend of multi-generational living. I think that there's just a pushback legislatively and otherwise, probably insurance-wise, and the confusion around the surveying as well, or the permitting rather as well, of if it's unrelated people, there seems to be more judgment around that. But if you really boil it down to the fact of we've all been in this business for quite some time. Do you guys remember what a 2-bedroom was back in, 2000s, early 2000s? It's quadrupled since then, Right. So if you're 18 or 80 or somewhere in between, and you're paying essentially 50%, 60, 70% of your gross income just for a studio at this point in Phoenix. Like, Phoenix used to be affordable, and we have a rising growth of homeless people, of people that are working poor. Essentially, these people work full time. You just don't realize it because they're presentable. They show up to their jobs every day, but they're sleeping in their car at night. And if we don't house them somehow or some way and put their money back into the economy, because when people feel safe and they're, housed, it does make a difference. You know, we all do a little bit better. And so if builders are doing this and recognizing it, we're like, hey, grandma is going to live with us, or our millennial is still going to live with us, or teenagers are still going to live with us for a while. There has to be an argument around, well, not only is it just family taking care of each other, because Indians are probably different. Us Americans are like, put mom and dad in a nursing home for the most part, to be honest. But if you really, you know, look at the economics of it, this has to happen in some form or fashion. If we're not building efficiency homes, if we're not building, you know, smaller townhomes and 1,000-square-foot starter homes, where are these people going to live that is affordable for them? That really is, you know, wherever you stand, I feel like that it's a data problem. It's, you know, there really is going to be a shortage. So where do these folks go?
Yeah, that's it. Where do they go? And there's something's got to give, right? And at the end of the day, we can learn from where these problems and where these circumstances have already been solved. And Europe solved these decades ago. It did. Co-living has been in Europe forever. I mean, my mom and dad were pregnant with my sister in London, living in a co-living home. My sister was born in her first house she ever lived in was co-living, right? And my mother was telling us a story about how the woman that they lived with, it was a bunch of Indians, and so like within our community, and they were all living in this house together, and they were each paying, you know, a certain amount of pounds, because it was London, a month. And so she was explaining how, because my mom had just given birth, that the other ladies in the house were taking care of her and helping her and cooking for my dad, and like, you know, just doing things and being sweet and being kind, and how helpful that was for them in the first couple of years of my sister's life. And that's important, because we not only, you know, need a place to live and a dignified place to rest our head and wash ourselves, but we also need connection. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I'm obsessed with, by the way, because, you know, when I learned about Maslow's hierarchy, I was in elementary school. And I don't think that the teacher who put it on the overhead projector actually understood what it meant. But it's a framework for how to live, right? It truly is a framework, and it's a very simple one. You can't skip stages. And so if we're going to be who we're supposed to be, our highest potential as a human, then we got to first figure out our physiological needs. And then we got to take care of our basic needs, like, you know, mating and like that thing, and like our family. And then we got to take care of our connections and how we feel like we are added, or how we add to the community that we're in. And then we get to learn how to be leaders in our community and to gain esteem. And then beyond that, you can actualize as a human and be who Chris, Tracy, Jamil are supposed to be at our highest and best version. And it's a framework for how you can go from living in survival to being a creator in this world, a co-creator in this world. And for me, you know, at 46 years, I still feel like I'm learning, like I'm at the beginning stages of learning it, but I'm a consummate learner, and I want to do more, and I want to be a part of my family's journey in that, but for others as well, to kind of say, hey guys, look, it's not all that difficult. What it requires is for us to be good to one another, and outside of that, let's do our best and not be dicks.
Yeah, right.
That's in the lease or the membership agreement.
Kind of. We have better terms, but you know, yeah.
Well, thanks for jumping on. I did when I was scrolling through the Instagram, which I try not to do too much of it, but I roll through it. I did see a little just comment like, why would you enter the co-living space without a mentor, right? So are you doing any mentoring on this?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So I've created a community called House Alchemy. The name is, you know, alchemy is the transformation of one thing to another, right? Mm-hmm. And we're turning single family homes into multifamily properties, essentially, is what we're doing. Yeah. We're transforming housing as it's been known. And so Housing Alchemy community is growing. It's of course brand new, and so we're really pouring a lot of time, energy, resources, and effort behind it. I fully believe in it, and I get to do that with my lovely sister. And so if anybody's watching this and you have interest in learning more about it, you can send me a DM on Instagram. And my Instagram is @JDAMJI, @JDamji. Happy to chat with you more about it. Outside of that, I do a lot of work personally on my mindset and developing just myself as a human. And so if there's any other things I talked about today resonate with you, I do a live every Sunday on my YouTube channel where I just talk about these types of things, like what it means to be a person and how we can grow and evolve as people. And so I'd love to catch you there. If co-living is not your thing, but you wanna know more about other things that I'm working on, you can find me on that.
If you want to ascend to nirvana.
Hopefully.
Well, we appreciate you jumping on. I'm gonna do one little small plug. If you want more stuff about co-living, Jamil's sister will actually be at the Phoenix RIA, the live expo next Tuesday from 4:30 to 6:30. She's going to be on a panel with Tracy and Luke. So we'll have Jamil's sister and the Redroom podcast hosts on one panel, and I'm gonna go jump on a panel with we invited Jamil, but he's traveling somewhere.
It's my daughter's 16th birthday.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
cool.
You gotta be there at the 16th.
So yeah, it's a big thing. I'm doing the whole I'm doing the party. So I'm here the whole month. I came here for the whole month, and I'm throwing the party. I'm doing the things. I'm in it, it's
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I got a Jack's wedding on Friday.
Congratulations, man.
Oh, nice, man. It already is March. Yeah.
The rehearsal dinner starts tomorrow and all the festivities. And so that should be fun. So
you've done an amazing job with your family, Chris. You really have. You're a blessed man.
It's always work, and it doesn't ever end. I mean, even in their 20s, it doesn't end.
Who would want it to end?
Yeah.
When it ends, that's sad. Like let praise God and let it be forever, bro. It's the best. It's the best.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks again, Tracy, for jumping on as co-host. And reach out to Jamil if you're interested in any co-living or. You still have astro flipping, I'm sure, too, right?
Yeah. If you want to be a wholesaler and help me make America more expensive, cool. Hit me up. I still do a lot of wholesale deals, and I'm not turning course on it. I'm just trying to balance. Trying to create a balance here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you at the expo.
See ya.